I'd like to call the special meeting North Branford Planning and Zoning Commission for Thursday, May 7th, 2015 to order.
You won?
Yeah, I'm on. In attendance of tonight's meetings are regular members Halpern, Sienna, Galdenzi, Dulac, and alternate member Gunn. The first order of business is minute approval from the April 2nd and April 16th meetings. Can you give copies so I could just see
Yes.
who was there? That's the second?
Yes.
I wasn't there. So for that one, it would be Bill, Charlie, Ron, and Dave.
I make a motion to approve the April 2nd, 2015 minutes.
Second motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? See, now that passes. Bill, you need Bill to sign this, right?
Yes, please.
Any particular spot?
At the last page.
Say your name. Yeah. Oh, no, this is my exact.
Thank you.
Next is the meeting minutes from Thursday, April 16th. That would be myself, Charlie, Ron, and Dave. Bill, you weren't here for that one.
No, I was absent also.
I'm sorry, Ron. Yes, it does say absent. Okay. So it's just myself, Charlie, and Dave.
Motion to approve the minutes of April 16th. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain.
Okay. So that passes 3-0 with 2 abstentions. I get Bill to sign it. I don't sign it myself. Thank you. The next order of business is our old business, PZ application 2014-15-12. That's a proposed changes to the zoning regulations regarding bulk storage of LNG. Applicant Christopher Kranick. So here is provided, at the last meeting we kind of went through with some of the options and kind of looked at, put it all together into one. Carrie's kind of documented that here in front of you tonight.
So, also just to add on to it, so in your packet I included the 6 versions that I had included in the packet from the April 2nd meeting. And since I wasn't here, I'll just do a quick run through. Version 1 was what the applicant originally proposed. And then going version 2 through 5, it just, each of them really built on the previous one, adding more and more standards. And then version 6 was kind of a hybrid, looking at what I felt were some of the high-level components that the applicant brought to the commission, which included changing the requirement from a site plan application to a special use permit, having a definition of bulk storage, citing that it's in a tank exceeding 2,500 gallons, and where the substantial purpose is for further distribution or delivery, and also putting a cap on the amount of propane that could be stored on one cumulative lot. And then also talking about an earthen berm when the storage facility is located within 1,000 feet of a residential or commercial use. After listening to the tape from the last meeting, I included another version in your packet, and then to make things even more complicated, in front of you this evening I put another version which you may want to just focus on. And this is based on, again, hearing from the commission, reviewing what the applicant would like, and then also talking with the fire marshal. So I don't know if it's easiest just to start with what I just presented in front of you, And really, the main difference with this one is that for number 3, it talks about the bulk storage facility that contains greater than 2,500 gallons shall be equipped with a blast and fire protection earthen berm designed in accordance with a sound fire protection analysis on any side facing a property within 1,000 feet on which a residential or commercial use is permitted. One of the things that I've been struggling with and I've been working with the fire marshal on is this berm. And because NFPA does not state the dimensions and the requirements for a berm, there's no definitive dimensions that I've been able to locate. The regulations do talk about the ability to install a berm, and that's in the 2014 edition, which was shared with me by the applicant. And what this says is, so this is from NFPA, again, version 2014, it's 6.4.5.1, just for the record. Structures such as firewalls, fences, earth or concrete barriers, and other similar structures shall not be permitted around or installed non-refrigerated containers unless specifically allowed. So that's the area that was highlighted, unless it's specifically allowed. And then the next section is 6.4.5.2. Structures partially enclosing containers shall be permitted if designed in accordance with a sound fire protection analysis. So that's where I pulled that language and included it in the draft version. The other thing that I spoke with the fire marshal about that he recommended be included if something like this were to be passed is number 4, which is in front of you tonight, which says bulk storage facilities shall submit a fire safety analysis for the proposed facility to the fire marshal as part of the special use permit application. So what he explained to me is under NFPA 58, a fire safety analysis report is required, but I believe it's only for facilities that are storing 4,000 gallons of propane.
Yep.
So this would bring that requirement and apply it to a facility that's 2,500 gallons. So again, this is just, one version. I think we have 8 different versions now. So it's up to the commission to discuss and then decide which components you'd like, all, some.
Do you want to work off of the one that she provided? The four versions? And then we'll just edit this the way we...
This, yeah. The first one.
Yeah.
Right? Yep. Yeah, I think so, right? Yeah.
No, I don't think that's it.
Yeah, I'm going to say, because
Is it?
The one that I just provided?
Yeah, here, we'll just pass it out so everybody's got it.
I think they should have it. I passed it out.
The single sheet.
Oh,
Yeah, that one.
gotcha. I was looking at the
It's a single sheet.
The one
She just
from
passed,
tonight,
she
not
put
from our
out.
packets. Not from our packets. We got it.
I mean, on the definition, I don't know if we talked about this a little bit last week, but the word substantial, I'm just having trouble trying to figure out the right terminology on that. Sorry. On the first part of the definition, the word substantial, I'm not sure if that is sufficient, because it's really just, it's not quantifying.
Ambiguous.
Yeah, it's not quantifying.
So that was taken from the original proposal that was
Right.
submitted by the applicant. I believe that the reason for including that, my interpretation anyway, is that they're trying to be more inclusive than less. So if someone came in and said, well, that's not our only purpose, we're also doing X, Y, and Z, we could say, well, a substantial portion, which would be interpretive, I don't know if that's 60% of your operations are
Yeah.
propane storage, or if it would have to be.
But what other purposes could there be besides, either you're just using it for distribution? Or you're using it for...
A larger proportion of the storage facility
The
is
location.
used for distribution rather than consumption.
Or the site could be used for something else. They could have another business on the property.
Yeah, if you simply got rid of it, any location at which the purpose is to store. So like Kerry said, you could say, well, that's not the only purpose of this. We do other things. So it doesn't mean.
More than 51% of the storage capacity is used for distribution. Would be substantial.
That would be majority, but yeah. Well, yeah.
From the standpoint of the regulation, I mean, why would it make a difference if it was substantial or not? Even if it was a smaller percentage, for distribution, it's the size of the tank. If you put a propane tank in there and it's not, you're putting it in there, the regulation should apply.
So maybe it should read any location where liquefied propane is stored in a tank exceeding 2,500 gallons
Prior
to the,
Well, that was my thing, just take the word substantial. I mean, I'm just saying that the whole idea behind this regulation is to monitor or to look at this, bring it, have a public hearing, special permit, the whole special use and the whole on that. I'm not just sure that it makes a difference what the use is. You're putting a tank on the property.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, and then when you put a tank on the property, it should come in front of us.
I don't think we disagree. We were just saying,
Yeah.
we didn't know if keeping substantial actually helped
Right.
the case,
I agree.
not hurt. But
Right.
to your point, the way you just worded it, maybe it is better that way.
Anybody, any other thoughts on that? Ron, Dave, Charlie?
It makes sense to pull substantial out of there.
Yeah, further distribution and delivery.
We in agreement on item 1?
Dave, are you,
Yeah.
and Ron, you okay with the first line? Taking out the word substantial? Okay. The second line?
so, just to clarify, so how will it read? You want to take out substantial, or did you want to go with how I reworded it?
Or you want to, can you just run that through again?
So one option is any location at which a purpose is to store liquefied propane in a tank exceeding 2,500 gallons prior to further distribution or delivery. Or any location at which liquefied propane is stored in a tank exceeding 2,500 gallons prior to further distribution or delivery.
I like that option too.
Yeah.
The second one. David, Ron, and Charlie, you, option 2 that Carrie just read through? Sound good? All right. All right, the second line, being maximum amount of bulk storage of propane cumulatively at any one lot is 5,000 gallons.
What size is the lot?
One property. Right? I think that's the,
One lot?
Right, there's no size. It's just defined by the parcel boundaries.
So if it means to do a large lot, you have the distance capacity, then multiple tanks you can't have.
I'm sorry, what was that?
If you have a large lot, if you have an acre lot or 20-acre lot, you can't have more than one tank.
you can have 2 tanks.
You can't have more than 5,000 gallons.
You can have 2 2,500 as long as they're 1,000 feet away from a property line, right?
But what if you have a large enough lot to have multiple tanks?
Good point.
If the purpose is for further distribution or delivery, which is where the bulk storage definition comes in, it would not be allowed.
How about condo units?
Again, it's further distribution or delivery,
That's consumption.
But if they
Right.
have one central tank and it's distributed to condo units. There's a storage unit and there's distribution.
Yeah, no, we weren't.
I think we
It's
might,
not really what
we
we
might
mean
have
by
to take a look at the way we word distribution.
No, I know.
That's not what you-
Yep. No.
Right, but maybe we need to take the word distribution, but let's circle that and we'll come back to that one. We should have something like commercial distribution.
Wholesale.
You know, I could be all wet on this too. What is the size of what the condo units use for,
1,000.
major storage tanks?
But there we go, that's okay though. That's for use on premise use. This is only for, this is only for
Yeah.
distribution and delivery. And we might change that word to commercial
Off-site.
distribution and delivery or something like that.
Offsite distribution.
Yeah, we can come back to that one, but that's a good point, Ron.
Yeah. Okay. Did we answer, David, did we answer your question on number 2? I think it says that you would be restricted to,
Okay, so you would be,
if you had a 20-acre lot, you could have 5,000 gallons.
it's restricting you down to that.
Yeah.
that amount.
I mean, if you had a 20-acre lot, I mean, you could probably subdivide it if you wanted to do something like that. I mean,
What farmers really use,
that would be on-premise use only? They're not using distribution?
So we also have the permitted uses, though, it says, right? We still have the
Yes.
south of Route 80 Cyril Road restriction, so it's really focused on that. There's not many, there's only those
4.
few areas, so. Okay.
Are we good with number 2? Okay. We'll move on to number 3.
So the only comment I have on that is, I guess I'm okay with it because it does say with a sound fire protection analysis, but because I understand your concern about earth and berm for blast protection, but I think it also, I think the fire chief even mentioned that it can somewhat compete with fire protection when you're trying to cool a tank, and actually fight a fire. The berm may or may not compete with that. But I guess if we keep in there that there's a sound fire protection analysis that goes along with that construction, I guess it's okay.
The only thing that I'm having a little issue with is that, let's say, they come up with an analysis that says, well, we only want to put it on, let's say there's property on all 4 sides. But when they say, when they do a fire protection analysis and they say, well, it's to your point, for, fire protection, we only should put it on 3 sides. And here's the 3 sides we should do it on. So I'm not sure if we should put the 4 sides on there, because it could be detrimental to a fire protection analysis. Let the analysis come back and say what it should be.
fund limited to burns or just say blast protection?
I know if you have a tank that's on fire, you want to try to cool it. You want to put copious amounts of water on it as fast as you can, as much as you can. I'm just wondering if the berm is just,
Doesn't say any side though, it doesn't say all four sides.
Yeah, just the side facing.
Well, any site within 1,000 feet of a residential or commercial. So I just wanted to clarify that it's more what an engineer puts together, the fire protection analysis that's done on that to make sure it fits. Not just saying it has to be on all four sides. To me, that's the way it reads. So if that's my interpretation is maybe a little different. But that was when I first read it. That's my interpretation. That if there's anything within 1,000 feet, it automatically requires a berm on that side. So I prefer that the professionals, an engineer, somebody doing the analysis, will tell us exactly how it should be, and where it should be, and how high, and the material. Well, there wasn't a whole lot of information in there. It doesn't really tell you of exactly how to do it.
so,
I mean, my thoughts on it, the way it's worded in there, is that you have an engineer put it together, you have somebody look at it through the fire protection analysis, fire marshal, and everybody takes a look at it, make sure it works in that particular location, and the materials and all that. And then once that gets, an approval or a thumbs up, then, we can look at that as well.
the only thing with that is it goes right back to your substantial. But what is the sound fire protection analysis?
Oh, that came right out of Carrie, that came right out of the,
Right. Yes, it's in NF.
Fire
58.
safety analysis in that NFPA 58, right?
It says with a sound fire protection analysis.
What is that?
I don't know.
Sort of, it's like a substantial purpose.
Right.
well, that's the right thing, you need that.
Well, the only thing is I said that because you mentioned engineering and things, and if that's
Yeah.
important, maybe we capture that.
I think that's something we would require if somebody ever came up here and said, okay, we need you put it here, what do you put around it? And then we give that to the fire marshal as well.
I have a problem with the entire berm concept. I don't think it's safe. And there's no berms around any other tanks in Connecticut. The state doesn't require it. The federal government doesn't require it. A berm is nothing but sending projectiles. If a tank leaks, you want to disperse the gas. You don't want to contain it.
Right.
So if you contain it with berms, you're going to have a massive explosion, as opposed to it being dispersed in the wind and rendered.
No, I can understand, but if we had an engineer take a look at it and say, okay, here's the best option, if we put a berm in,
Then do we have to put restrictions in? What type of engineer? I mean,
I would think that we would make sure that it's somebody who's...
no
I mean,
offense, Kurt, but we have a town engineer.
No, I mean, if somebody's going to put
We need an
together...
explosive engineer.
No, if we're going to put together, if somebody's going to bring an application in front of us, we want to make sure that that person has credentials that are in fire protect, has some background in this. It wouldn't be, I mean, no disrespect to an electrical engineer, but we're not going to let them do it. We want somebody who's got credentials, who does this, who knows the regulations and it puts it all together.
I guess I go back to what I said before. The NFPA 58 doesn't require berms.
Well, they don't require, but they do mention it. It is mentioned in there.
Why don't we, number 4, because the fire safety analysis is part of NFPA 58 requires this fire safety analysis. And it includes consideration of berms and walls and things. Actually, it says, I think, actually says it doesn't require it unless it's required somewhere else or something. Doesn't it
Right,
say that?
and that's what we're doing, that's what number 3 is. We as a town, in this particular option, are requiring it. Even though it's not required in there, it's saying it can be. And that was one of the things they put in there. I mean, so then that's one for discussion. Again, like you said, Ron, it's not a requirement, but they do mention in it that it can be required. So that's why, and that's why that's why it was added in here.
National Fire Protection Association are basically the experts in fire prevention and safety. So I'm just a little hesitant to go against something that's in their guidelines. I would be more comfortable referring to that document,
What do you mean?
NFPA 58.
For,
Require a fire safety analysis.
oh, for number 4?
Yeah, it's a very substantial, well, we saw it on the original application. It goes over a lot more than just burns, it looks at everything.
Well, yeah, I don't think anything can get approved unless it meets that requirement. But
Well, it's not required of 2,500 gallon tanks. We're going to make it a requirement of this.
Gotcha.
So I'm saying,
Yep, I got you.
part of that is going to require whoever comes in with 2,500 gallons to actually submit a fire safety analysis, which is pretty substantial. It goes through everything. It doesn't just talk about burns.
Yep.
It talks about all sorts of things.
But it doesn't say that, in here, it doesn't say that a
Right.
berm's required. What this is saying is that we
Right.
would require.
It says it shall be equipped with a blast and fire protection berm. Shall be.
What I'm saying is we're going, I'm a little concerned only because there's been testimony with the fire chief that we thinking a berm is good, but I'm just concerned that it's causing a bigger thing we're not recognizing. And this is an expert document and we're going against what it says, potentially.
How, if we put something in. Let me take it.
So Bill, you're saying that 4, you're more comfortable with 4 than 3?
But add into it.
All I'm actually saying is I'm trying to do what's best, and I don't know if the berm is.
Right.
I know we're thinking it's good for one purpose, but I think it may be going against another purpose. If something is, if there's an event going on with a tank, you want to get water in there to cool it as fast as possible.
So, can I, because it sounds like you know about fire safety analysis plans, do they, and I've only seen the one for Cyril Road, with any other site, would they make recommendations for additional measures that could be installed, such as blast protection? So I'm wondering if the fire safety analysis would make recommendations that would be appropriate for any site that would be trying to apply for this type of use.
I'm not sure blast protection, but certainly all sorts of other controls, redundancies, and fire protection kind of design.
We put something in there, and I'm just trying, I just started it. If we go with a berm, but it shall require a berm unless the fire marshal and fire safety analysis decides it is, not appropriate. And we need more terminology than not appropriate, but. Because to your point, yeah, there might be some reason.
I think it's very specific to an earthen berm. There may be better ways of doing it.
I agree.
Or it may create more
I agree.
issues. So if we have an official fire protection engineer doing this analysis, I feel more comfortable letting them decide what's the best solution rather than codify it.
Should we put something in there, let's say if you did something like that and voucher shall submit a fire safety analysis and consider a berm, just so it's in there, so we know, we're telling anybody that's coming through here that we want you to take a look at a berm for additional protection, besides everything else that's in the NFPA 58.
I think even maybe.
I'm still against the berm. I realize what you're
Yeah.
doing. You went right by me and you.
Oh, no, I see what you're saying.
rewording. My limited experience getting rocketed proved to me that a berm is a detriment.
But how if it was like, well, okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So that being the case, I'm only falling back, things that happened to me 40 years ago.
Right,
Now, that being the case, you don't have the expertise.
right.
So you're putting a restriction in that isn't in a federal guideline, it isn't in a state guideline.
Right.
It isn't used anywhere in the state of Connecticut, but we're choosing to overwrite that.
No, we're not overriding, it is in the
Why
NFPA.
don't
It says
we
it's-
just-
you can consider it.
Why don't we just say equipped with blast, I don't know the word I'm going to use here, but equipped with blast and fire protection design criteria or something. I mean, that way, this says all you can use is an earthen berm. And if
Right.
the fire protection engineer says, you know what?
That's not a good
That's
idea.
not the right thing to do. You should have a wall 5 feet tall, whatever, 2 feet thick, concrete, reinforced. I mean, if that's the solution, that's the solution. But then we'll go here and say, well, you can't have that, you have to have an earthen berm. That's my only answer.
I'm bored with that part.
I want to make sure it protects the community, but I'm not sure the earthen berm is. We should be so specific. We should be so specific. It
Oh, I
should
agree.
be the expert that comes in with this fire analysis saying, this is what I recommend. I have 20 years doing this. This is what I say is the best. And then we can say, yeah, that makes sense.
Would we be better off just to add to 4 that we need a fire safety analysis, including blast and fire protection?
Fire safety
Considerations
analysis would incorporate all that.
Hmm?
A fire safety analysis would incorporate all that.
Yeah,
You have to state it and specifically spell it out. It's already incorporated.
right. Well, I'm with Bill. I think that we don't want to require a berm if the professional doing the analysis feels that a berm is appropriate, or other blast protection, if there is one. It's part of his analysis, and we get it as soon as the thing is a bulk facility.
Take it out.
So you want to take, you're thinking we should take out 3 and add to 4, correct?
Yeah, add the 4 that any facility with 2,500 gallons or more shall submit a fire safety analysis, including blast and fire protection.
Right.
Do we want to capture this 1,000 feet though? Is that important to us?
No, take all 3 out totally. Take 3 out totally.
Say again?
Remove 3.
Just remove it?
Yeah, you really can't keep the 1,000 feet when you have nothing behind it. Yeah.
No,
Do you want me to run through everything?
Well, we'll just go through. Now, I mean, are we good with, are the commission good with it, what we got so far? So I just want to go back up to number 1, and then we'll roll through all the changes we made, but one of the things was distribution or delivery. And to Ron's point, should we make that prior to further commercial distribution or delivery?
Or off-site?
Or off-site?
As soon as you add an adjective like commercial, why not just before delivery? Or prior to further delivery, distribution or delivery?
What's that, Charlie? I'm sorry.
I don't think the commercial just clouds the issue more.
How about off-site?
No, I think just what we have here is okay.
Okay.
And 2, I think we're pretty much in agreement on that.
Yep.
Does our wording to this only apply to installations? It sounds that it only applies to the bulk, what do we call, bulk storage facility. And so if in a commercial operation or an industrial operation, they are not limited by this. Is that true?
Well, it says the max storage is 5,000 gallons for any use.
Yeah, but this is all under the bulk storage
Right.
thing, Dave.
Right, so you'll notice that throughout numbers 1 through 4, the words bulk storage are used, actually except number 1 because that's the definition.
Okay.
So anywhere where it says bulk storage, whoever's interpreting these regulations would have to go back up to the definition, which speaks to the further distribution or delivery and then the amount.
I think this is only addressing the 3 lots on Zero Road, right?
Right, there's,
4 lots.
4 lots, right.
This clarification, this would not affect, let's say, a strip mall where there's
Right.
different storefronts. It would not affect them, correct?
Right.
Well, if they're using it for on-site usage and they're
Yes.
not doing any distribution, if somebody, like I think somebody mentioned during the public hearing that up in Northford, they have 4 1,000 gallon tanks or something like that?
Yes.
No, what if, for
Okay.
on-site, like a condo, if they wanted to put a large, or propane tanks to, or whatever it might be, they'd be allowed to do that. And residential as well.
Yeah. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
It seems to me we're down to 3 and 4 where we're not clear on where we're headed.
Do you want to have Carrie read what the combination of that, that you and Bill kind of
If
worked
she's had a
out?
chance to draft something,
What's that?
if she's had a chance to
Yeah.
draft something.
Okay, so what I have for rewrite, including 3 and 4, is bulk storage facilities shall submit a fire safety analysis meeting NFPA 58 requirements and including blast and fire protection for the proposed facility to the fire marshal as part of the special use permit application.
Nicely done.
So the only comment I have to that is? Okay, yeah, okay, no, I think.
No comment?
Yeah, no, let's think this through, so I just want, I want someone coming, thinking through this later. So the fire safety analysis is not required for NFPA 58, but we are saying,
Yes.
so when we say it must meet a fire safety analysis per NFPA 58, if you go to NFPA 58, it'll say if it's under 4,000, it's not required. Are they going to say, well, I don't need to do one? No, right? We're saying,
Right.
meaning, well, I just want to make sure we think this
Terminology's
through.
right, yeah.
So are we, what does that statement say? Does it say they need to do a fire safety analysis?
So my intent in
I know what the
including,
intent is. I'm wondering if someone can try to get a loophole,
Right.
that's all.
what if we say, instead of me,
I don't know if we need to say anything else, I'm just different, I'm just
No, I
wondering if
think the
that.
word required, or something needs to be in there to make sure that somebody who's reading it's
Yeah.
clearly identify that.
right,
It says per NFPA 58, you go to it, it says, well, it's only 2,500, I don't need it, because under 4,000, I don't need it, so I've met my requirement.
So how
But I
don't need to do it.
how have you put something like the fire safety,
Meeting the NFPA,
right, right. in
following
accordance with
NFPA 58, I don't know.
Procedures?
I may just be nitpicking.
Because I just don't want someone submitting to me, oh, I have a fire safety
No, I-
analysis, and it's a one-page
I agree.
document, but they're
I'm
not.
just trying to prevent them
Right.
going to it and saying, hey, I don't need one, so
Right, I made that myself.
NFPA 58, because I don't need to do one
Right, and I
per NFPA 58,
I just want to make sure that they submit a fire safety analysis that
following
meets
the guidelines
following the
of
guidelines.
NFPA 58.
shall require, instead of submit, shall require a fire safety analysis meeting NFAPA 68
Guidelines, or the guidelines.
Let's hear it.
guideline, yeah. I'm not sure if that works.
Well, I can
Also
draft it.
shall require a fire safety analysis meeting,
Following, or,
no, meeting the NEPA 58 guidelines.
written per,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
it's just having
Yeah,
that
yeah,
outline.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they have to meet the NFPA 58, so I mean, that's,
Right, but like what Bill's saying,
They don't have to.
they don't have to if they're under 4,000 gallons.
NFPA 58, they
No,
don't
but
have to
we're
have one.
requiring it.
I know,
Just saying,
yeah.
but anything else that comes along with it.
Just trying
has
to eliminate
No, I got you.
wiggle room, that's all.
Yeah, we require the analysis, no matter what size it is. In accordance to
Mhm.
NFPA 58.
We might not have to do anything, I don't know how anyone else feels, I just didn't know if that's kind of
No, I agree.
a way around.
Let's make sure they understand that it's
Yeah,
required.
exactly.
Yep, I agree with that.
No, I can't, because I haven't drafted a motion, and then I need to resend
Okay,
it.
we're gonna, we can,
Right.
we can just fine tune it, a special use permit.
So I can fine tune that for the next meeting, so that we
Yeah.
have a motion
Yep.
ready to go.
I like it otherwise.
Can you read the whole rewrite of 34 again?
Yes. Okay, so it will say, bulk storage facilities are required to submit a fire analysis, a fire safety analysis in accordance with NFPA 58 requirements, including blast and fire protection for the proposed facility to the fire marshal as part of the special use permit application. And I can wordsmith the, in accordance with NFPA 58.
Yeah.
So what is the special use permit for?
The special use permit would be the application that's required for any facility over 2,500 gallons. So that may be redundant.
That's all right. It's okay.
The reason why I included that, though, is because I wanted it to be included as part of the application at the beginning of the process and not post-construction or post-approval.
Good. I like it.
Any other discussion on that? So Kara do, she'll, like you said, I like that word, wordsmith.
I guess one other thing to just point out, on some of the other versions, one of the items was retail facilities for the bulk storage of propane shall meet the requirements of NFPA 58 for commercial and wholesale storage. I took that out because I felt like it was redundant, and after talking with the fire marshal, they have to comply with NFPA 58, whether it's retail, commercial, wholesale, et cetera, so it didn't really matter, so I took that out.
Yep.
Any other discussion, or, so Carrie, she'll put that together, reword it, wordsmith it, generally, and get that back out to us for the next meeting. Carrie, any updates on the next one, 2014-15-6?
So, sorry, just to be clear,
I'm
so
sorry.
we'll continue that to the next meeting, which
Yeah.
is May 21st.
Yep.
Okay. And that will be here. So
Some insight of what the expectations are now.
the next item,
Yep, the 2014-15-6, any updates on that?
no, it's still with the state.
Okay. Any other business? Do we have a bond release possibly?
Yes. So this is, sorry, it's
That's all right.
942 September Road, where is that?
Which is that?
Bond release? Yeah, is that lower or upper? You know where 942 Totucket is? Is it higher up?
I think
Towards
that's off,
Northwood or
it's got,
what?
is that off Auger Road? Oh, I'm sorry. Here you go.
No,
No idea.
yes.
Here you go.
Yes. You know, it may have been included incorrectly in the agenda.
here's a handout for the next item.
Oh, this one.
So,
Where is it?
So they can do the draft motion,
I don't know.
and then
Right.
Yeah, I'm
they'll
drawing a
come
blank.
to the meeting.
I
With
think
a
this is
specific,
the Alpat,
Okay.
right?
water tank.
Because I don't have to write up
cornfield
Yeah.
is.
back here.
no, that's
That
fine.
motion is
All the
okay.
way down to Kentucky before it turns to go to where the Abbott's Pizza was, or Amato's Pizza, where it burned down. You know what,
And then wait till the next one, I'll make sure I write up.
Okay.
recommended it.
Yeah.
You're going up Totucket
Okay.
Road. It's all the way to the very end after you cross the village.
Okay, so,
Comes and it turns and it.
Oh,
ends up
yeah,
with
yeah, I
17.
get-
You know
yeah,
that
yeah.
to the left there?
Yeah.
Remember, like, years ago, we approved 10 lots over there, I think. I think this is what it
It
is.
could be.
so, in front of you, there's a
They never
memo.
did anything with it.
A memo that I just handed out, which just kind of outlines, essentially what the applicant is requesting is to reduce and eliminate the bond for the project. And so this was a 10-lot a re-subdivision at 942 Totucket, creation of 10 lots. There was approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission back in 2006, and then actually the commission extended the approval until June of 2020. Actually, that was just this past December that you approved the extension. But with some changes in the state statute, they wanted to amend and actually modify their approval, and they wanted to eliminate condition number...
I can't hear you.
Sorry. So, Is that a little bit better?
Yes.
Little.
Essentially, the applicant is looking to reduce their bond amount as a result of changes in the state statute that don't require that the town hold bonds for things that are not municipal, not public improvements. So I have a motion just to remove condition 22 from the approval, which was that, this is what it stated, the performance bond to be posted for the subdivision shall include the value of stormwater detention systems for individual lots, wetlands plantings, street trees, grading along Totucket Road, the fence to be planted along the wetlands buffer, and property monumentation. So there would still be a bond held on the property, it just wouldn't be as much as it currently is, which they've been paying interest on, for the past several years. They had to receive wetlands approval, and they requested a modification of that approval as well to reduce the bonding amount. What they've done now instead is that they're going to come before the wetlands agency for each individual lot and get approval for each of those. And we're going to make sure that they do all of these improvements, such as, the stormwater detention systems, wetlands plantings, etc.
Do we have to reduce the amount of money? Can we just change the language with the expectation that we know what it's going to be held for?
They posted the initial bond, which I think was like $90-something thousand. So it's really a two-step process. In order to not require them to do post bond for the wetlands improvements for individual lots, you have to approve this, amendment, eliminating that requirement from the conditional approval of the subdivision. At the next meeting, I'll bring back an actual recommendation to release the bond that we're currently holding to identify it for specific items, pins and monuments, and public improvements. And that'll be at the next meeting.
So we'll capture that.
We'll capture all that.
Okay, that was my
bond
only-
that's
okay.
form.
Yeah.
You said that the inland wetlands required us to remove the bond?
No, this was from the applicant. The applicant also went to inland wetlands to request a reduction in their bond, well, actually a modification of their approval.
That's correct. The interesting thing about this property, it's on between Totucket Road and Route 17 Middletown Avenue. It's farmland right now. They have approval for a subdivision, but right now it's under Public Act 490. It's farmed, and who knows how long it may be there. And it seemed to make more sense to require the individual lots to come back before the Wetlands Commission and get individual approvals, because they are not public improvements. And that's the difference, as Gary indicated. If they're putting streets through there, absolutely, they've got to do anything public related, they've got to bond for it.
But these other ones that we're reducing, they would still be required to do them.
They'll still be required to do it. They'll have to come back to the commission individually on each lot.
But what would be the recourse if they don't do them? What kind of, because there's no bond for them, so we would hold the
There's
CO.
no bond. Again, maybe we'll not do this specific occupancies or do the zoning compliance of the property. And generally, what the Wetlands Commission, what I anticipate them doing is when they approve it, they will approve it subject to all these things being done before they get their certificate of occupancy, or at that time, they'll require a bond for any outstanding item.
So basically, all this is doing is taking the monetary value out of it, the requirement's still there from.
Yeah. And it really is a more doable, practical solution.
I got you. All right.
So they're asking just to remove number 22? Right?
Yes.
22 is sanitary sewers installed for $40.
No, it's condition 22 from the original approval. So it's a different page if you turn to the page before that in the packet.
So the burden for these goes individually to the property owners.
That's correct. At the time of development, they will have to,
The only, from a personal experience, that makes it very challenging for an individual lot owner like this. This grading along Tutucket Road, you've got to bring someone in to do that, and the next person that's not ready to build doesn't have to do that. You're having to grade a 50-foot peak, you know. Where if it goes on the developer, they just do the whole thing.
Develop one lot at a time.
again, in this case, and again, this is an unusual one, it's all existing roads, existing, well, I think we should talk about putting the shoulder in there. I'm not reading that bill, or what item was that?
I just picked that one up. It said grading along Tutucket Road, so I didn't know exactly what that meant.
In this case,
Just
it's
your own.
pretty flat right there. It just, when you get done, we're gonna have to grade off. And again, it's pretty much there.
Well, here's it, maybe this, like stormwater detention, if it's is it gonna be a road or you?
No, the stormwater detention will be catching the driveway and maybe the roof leaders and putting it back in the ground.
Just
on the individual lot.
Okay, so it's
This
not,
one is
it's not a division where you have a retention bason in the center.
That's
Okay,
correct.
so like the individual has to get with all these other people that are trying to buy the lots and, okay.
No, in this case, it'll
That
all
makes
be
sense.
on the
All right.
individual lot, and they will have to come back to the Wetlands Commission. They may show proposed house locations. They could actually vary that if the commission allows that, and then it may change some of the wetlands plantings they have to do on an individual basis.
So where's this property again? It's before it's on 8 and 17, you
So
said?
it's between Route 17 and Tutucket Road, where LPAX is, you know, where their,
Do the water,
where the water
pool water?
trucks are and everything along Route 17, a little bit south of the
You go,
center.
you go
All
past
the way out.
you go past the church, and then just before the hill starts going down, the water place is right to your left.
That's
So
correct.
it's right in that area.
Big cornfield.
Yeah, right now it's planted.
Yeah, before you go down the hill, it's off to your left.
On 17?
Yeah, right past St. Amant, you go past the church, and then right to your left.
Past Foothill Road.
All right.
It's
Right down the hill.
I know where it is. Yeah,
Before you
Yeah,
go down the
before you go down the
hill.
hill.
Across from the cemetery.
Up further,
down.
yeah.
That's the same area.
I think as long as these are things, I just had a fundamental past experience where it's challenging when you have a subdivision and they're individually sold, but then there's community things you have to do. If the first builder,
100%
if the first builder wants to build, he has to go to these other people that aren't even ready to build and say, hey, we have to do this, and then they can say, go pound sand.
Well,
So this doesn't sound like this is the case.
No,
Okay.
again, they'll be on individual lots. And again, if the developer wants to do it right now, it doesn't make any sense to physically want to try to do some of these things because it's an active farm.
Yep, okay.
Well, he wants to develop the whole farm and get these lots out of it. He has
Yeah,
to
the
develop
farm
a lot at a
would be-
time, that was the proposal, right?
I'm sorry, I can't.
He said he wants to develop the whole piece of property, which is proposed here. But now he wants to come back and develop one lot at a time?
Yeah, but, yeah.
My guess is, and again, it may be a long time log before it's ever sold. Again, it's in Public Act 490 farmland currently. He could do it, he could sell off individual lots, he could sell the whole development to a developer, and they develop individual lots. But again, they don't have to do public improvements to do it, because they have existing road frontage. It's really just, you know, putting driveways in, putting septic systems in, and doing any wetlands improvements requirements on those individual lots. And they certainly, they can, and they most likely will be done on an individual basis.
Does this affect the original site plan approval?
Well, you still gotta follow it, that hasn't changed.
Yeah, no,
They,
right?
follow it, and again, from a subdivision point of view, they have to show that they could develop the lots, make sure they could get the septic system, they have to get wetlands approval. And again, we run into this sometimes where the individual lot, they may come in and they showed a rectangle on the property where they anticipated a house. When they come in, they may have a different shaped house, they may tweak it a little bit one way or the other. So that's the kind of change you would see from what was shown on the subdivision of wetlands original approvals. Those are really, in this case, their feasibility, show that it'll all work. But the individual lot gets looked at individually with a particular house. They may put a 3-bedroom house in instead of a 4-bedroom house. They may change the septic system requirements, or vice versa.
So Carrie, this is the current, the state law changed? So
Right.
we can't do this, right?
No, we can.
No,
We
can't.
can do this, but we can't do what we originally did, right?
Well, we can because it was grandfathered in, but what they're doing is
They're requesting that it be
Right.
removed because of the updates to the
So we
state.
can, we
Leave
could
it?
keep it, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Do they approve the re-subdivision of the 10 lots? It's been approved, right?
Oh, yeah, like,
2006.
Yeah, 11 years ago, or
It's-
9 years ago.
So it's already been approved, you can subdivide it right now, it's already been approved line, just a matter of him doing it.
Right, but they're just asking us to change that to individual lots instead of doing it all, which might be something that we actually look into. Why, I mean, do we want him to do the whole lot? If he's only gonna, maybe decides only to develop 2 houses out of 6, why would we want, that would be better for the town, just having 2 houses built instead of 6. So have it on the individual basis, so I think that's something that would fit into, our plan as well.
The only thing is, worst case scenario, you get people that aren't conforming to their own, if it's individual and someone says, well, I'm not doing it. Instead of having street plantings that are consistently down the road, you have, some have it, some don't, some chose to do it, some said forget it.
But I think that's where we can hold back the
Yeah.
C of O.
Yeah.
And I think really this is to save them some money and interest on the bond.
Yeah, I think
Because
so.
it reduces it by around, I think, $10,000 was the estimate.
Okay, yeah, I forgot the CFO and everything, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. We can
Any
always
other-
enforce it through that.
Any other discussion? Would somebody like to make a motion, please?
I move to modify the approval of planning and zoning application 2005-06-22, recent subdivision 10 lots, 942 Pawtucket Road. Assessor map 56, lot 55B. Lot 2, re-subdivision 1195 Middletown Avenue. It's an R40 zone, owner applicant Pawtucket Land LLC, care of John Ankapora, agent Criscola Engineering, which was approved on June 15, 2006. 2, remove condition 22, states the performance bond to be posted for the subdivision shall include the value of stormwater detention systems for individual lots, wetland plantings, street trees, grading along Pawtucket Road, the fence to be planted along the wetlands buffer, and property monumentation.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
No.
I'm sorry? Opposed? That passes 4-1. Dave opposed it.
Okay,
Moving right along.
moving right along.
I was hoping this would be a long one because you went on vacation. I was hoping this would go to 11 o'clock. Just as payback.
Right.
We had a midnight
I told
one.
Kurt, throw a bunch of stuff on the agenda, put like 50 things on it when she comes back.
We had a midnight one when you were in here a couple weeks ago.
Really? Oh, that's right. Next one is the proposed site work at town's football field located 198-209 Forest Road.
So this is more just for information. I don't believe that this requires a site plan approval, but it's, like I say, just really to give you an update in case you see some activity going on there, and Kurt can chime in, since I know he's been working with Fran on this, but essentially, there's some improvements that need to be made to provide handicap accessibility to the field. That's not Wallfield? No. Does that field have a name? Sorry.
Well, the wall
It's the
field
police
is
station.
south.
No, police station.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
the field right next to the football field next to the police station.
Yeah, here's the football field usually kind of runs across the baseball field.
Right.
Yeah, so it's the police station.
So essentially what the work includes is as you see marked on there, putting in handicapped seating and a parking area. The handicapped seating will have a poured concrete platform. The bleachers will either be moved, or I'm not sure if new bleachers are coming in, and then a concession stand will be constructed where it's identified on the plan. The stand of trees that you see just to the north of the concession stand will also be removed, and that slope will be regraded. Again, it's outside of the wetland area, and I'm working closely with Fran on this, but it was more just point of information for the commission in case you had any questions.
And the concession stand, it's actually sort of an interim location. This is not a permanent thing. I think they may just get a sort of a portable shed type of thing and make it work at the interim. But that's where it is at this point in time.
I have a question. Do we have any plans for this property? I see the police station being encircled by baseball fields and stuff like that, and it's really restricting any growth for the building that we have there, the police station. Is there plans to move the police station, or?
That's something actually the town council is setting up a long-range planning committee to look at some town projects. That's certainly one of the top topics of conversation. What happens at the police station? Because the police station does need work, and just traditionally, it's going to need addition or renovation at some point, maybe a relocation. That's unknown.
So is that our plan, to relocate the police station? If that's the case, I'm okay with
I
it.
don't know if the answer is relocate or improve where it is. Sort of the thought was, if it gets pushed out the back, in that area. But again, that's actually getting looked at. That committee, planning committee was just put together this past week, and they're really going to try to focus on those long range.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't take much to look at the police station and say, right behind it, you're putting in handicap parking and bleachers and a concession stand, and there's no way of moving that police station back.
Well, that right now, again, the concession stand, that's a low cost, sort of a temporary type solution for a concession stand. All those things that are there, if need be, are easy enough to relocate.
And Ron, this is, in something like this, is, it's similar to what Madison just kind of put together. It's relatively new. I think it's probably maybe 5-6 years. If you're going towards Hammonasset, if you're going down, I think it's 77, you cut off to the Hammonasset. Right to the left, they have the police station. I think they have like a YMCA and their parks in there. It's kind of like a campus setup, and Carrie just, I asked her just to confirm that, but it's kind of similar. But this stuff is not permanent. So if the police station was going to expand and they needed more area off of that, then obviously this handicap seating, parking, and bleachers, concession stand would have to be moved. And since it's not going to be a permanent structure.
Yeah, but you put a concrete slab down, why don't you just move the concrete slab farther back, and so this area is designated for future expansion of the police station?
Well, they don't know if they're going to do it. That's long range.
We also need well-thought-out, well-planned
Yeah.
athletic fields, too,
Right,
in
exactly.
this town. So not just town buildings, we need athletic fields.
That's what I'm
And they
saying.
are-
Yeah, no, I know.
But these fields are already developed.
Ones with drainage.
Well, again, these are all developed. Hopefully,
No, I know.
one thing about our fields, they drain better than any other ones in the state from
Not the
being a coach.
softball fields.
Well, play soccer.
Yep. Softball takes a back seat.
Or lacrosse. All right. So what are we doing? Just
Nothing,
making-
it's just informative.
Okay.
No, this is just.
The only thing I want to ask is the
Doing it.
concession stand, is that going to be shared with baseball, or does baseball have their own, or?
Wallfield has its own concession stand.
Okay.
That was constructed as part of Wallfield. It's right behind home plate.
Softball doesn't have anything, that's okay.
I'll get you a
We
folding
don't even
table
have
and chairs.
bathrooms.
Well, what's that, the over 40 league?
Tuck yeah. No,
30?
daughters.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll have to work on that.
What
Alright.
does the football use now for a concession stand? They've never had one, right?
Football? Football's had one.
Trailer or something, right? Or something, or a little wooden shack or
I'm
something.
not
They have
familiar
something.
with it.
Yeah, they've had, I
Maybe
don't,
it's issue.
they've had it was a temporary, I think it was a trailer, or something like that, they
Yeah.
would bring it inside, I think they,
Smoking on Sundays.
yeah. So I think they left it
Hot
in
dogs
during the
and
week, and then after football season pulled it out. So it looks like they're just maybe moving that over to here, or whatever they're doing, so.
What's that green building in the back there? Right above the concession stand? Wording.
That's a storage facility that was constructed as part of Wall Field. Little League has half of it, each with their equipment and everything, and Public Works uses the other half. There's some controls for irrigation and like that too.
So is Wallfield down in the bottom?
Yes.
Yes,
That's the storage field, the
This is
building
Wallfield.
for Wallfield, way up there on the
I
left.
was asking questions about playing.
yeah. They also have some like small storage, I think, in the dugouts, but bigger equipment and like.
Yeah, there's other stuff down there too. I mean, there's the other fields as well.
All right, good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, next update on 50 Fowler Road.
All right, so I'm going to pass out just two things. This is a request that I received from Attorney Sachs. Doug Anderson is here this evening. So just to do a quick run through of where things stand.
I think we better wait. What's that? Is this an update?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
So you remember back in
Handout.
January,
50
I
Fowler.
issued a cease and desist at 50 Fowler Road because a stormwater permit had not been obtained. There were questions about the sedimentation and erosion controls and maintaining those. And then also material that had been brought, well, there was a question about whether it had been brought on site or not. So I believe it was a month or so ago, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted to modify the cease and desist to allow for activity to resume so long as it didn't include blasting, processing, crushing of rock, because there was still an industrial stormwater permit that was needed. And so I've been working with the applicant, going to the site, and they still are waiting for their industrial stormwater permit. They have since gone back to the wetlands agency, however, and requested that the cease and desist be lifted, or modified, I should say, to allow for this cease and desist to be lifted upon the issuance of the industrial stormwater permit. So that's essentially what this letter says from Attorney Sachs. They also, in this letter, are requesting that they receive a 6-month extension to complete the work that they have not been able to do as a result of the cease and desist. I spoke with the applicant about this before the meeting, and it's my opinion and strong belief that we actually have to keep those two things separate. So if the commission wants to take action on the cease and desist and modifying it based upon the issuance of the industrial stormwater permit, that's fine. And then they could come back and request an extension. And in looking at the permits, the only portion of the permit, the site plan approval that needs an extension is the blasting permit, because that was issued in August of 2013, and there was a requirement, a condition that the blasting permit could only be allowed for 2 years from the date of issuance.
So we still got a couple months. Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
however, it's our understanding that it takes at least 2 months for the industrial stormwater permit to be issued, so they may not receive it until July.
Okay.
They're hoping that it's fast-tracked, but,
Okay.
so that's where things stand. Michael Harkin is still involved. He's the third-party engineer from Harkin Engineering. The Wetlands Agency voted to have him do monthly inspections and also visit after every 0.5 inch of rain. The stormwater erosion controls have been maintained. Dave Dupuy has been submitting weekly stormwater reports. There was some question about material having been brought on site recently. So I went out there because I received a call and inquiry from a resident. So I went out there and actually spoke with Robert, Dave Dupuy, and Michael Harkin, and it was actually a compost pile that had been on site, and they were just processing it. So they were putting it through the screener to separate out the larger pieces, dry it out, turn it over, and really work through it, and then also mix it with some existing soil on site. So there hasn't been any evidence of material being brought on site.
So by modifying the cease and desist, what would that allow them to do?
That would allow them to, the minute that it's approved by the state and there's written approval, and then I review that, receive it from the state, then as the administrator, I can lift the cease and desist. So that's, I have drafted a motion here.
That's what this is saying, right?
Yes, that's the
That
first paragraph.
We're saying that we'll agree to do that once they get the industrial wastewater permit.
Yeah.
You see it, you say it's okay.
Yes.
They don't have to come back
They
to
don't have
our
to-
meeting.
Yeah,
Correct.
it's on there, yeah.
And that's what.
But I thought we
and
said
that's
at last
what-
meeting that
and
that wasn't
that's what
possible.
wetlands approved.
Yeah.
That was a sign.
Okay.
They received a letter giving them a number, because it's waiting for the actual piece of paper.
It's through there, yeah, it's basically, Doug Anderson. It's
Oh, you may have
basically,
to turn it on, Doug.
Flip switch up.
Doug Anderson. Basically, all the information is in submitted paperwork, and it basically is their time frame that they have to review it. So it's basically all the same information that was submitted with the previous application that was approved. Nothing's changed, different form on the front, so.
So basically, all this is doing is, by us making this motion, would be is that if next week, we get the paperwork comes into the state to carry, that she can lift the system to cease, and we don't have to, it doesn't have to wait to our next meeting for approval. So they still can't do anything until Carrie receives this, so she can lift the cease to cease. So all we're doing is a little advance by lifting, modifying it.
And it basically has to do with the blasting, so once that's lifted, then the fire marshal can obviously issue a blasting
Right.
permit, which he can't at this point.
So the assigned number is that they've got your package and they're reviewing it, not that it's been approved and you're waiting for certificate.
Correct. It's the same package as what was approved under the construction activities. This is one of those anomaly situations where we have had to apply for two permits. Probably the first one that's existed in the state.
So this, all we're doing is allowing that, like you said, the extension is a whole separate issue of the meeting.
That's what I- that's what I-
I agree with that. Okay.
I move to modify the cease and desist order dated January 16, 2015, issued to Lumber Brook Associates, the property owner of 50 Flower Road, Assessor map 27, lot 45, to allow for cease and desist to be removed upon DEP's approval of the applicant's state industrial stormwater permit and verification by the town manager.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, that passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Looks like we're headed down to the home stretch here. Town planners report. Or is there any other business?
No, we're down to one page.
Town planners report?
Nothing to report, no new
Really?
applications. We may, well, the agenda will look very similar, I guess, next meeting, but nothing to report.
For our next meeting, May 21st, anybody know if they will not be here?
Yes.
You mentioned that last time, yep. So you will be here.
I will not be here June 4th. That's not May. I'll be here May.
So Charlie and possibly Fran on the 23rd. And then on June 4th?
I'm not here.
Like I said, our email should be here for the next meeting.
Okay. Yes. We'll be here for, go overseas?
No.
Is that?
Salt Lake City.
Charlie, that's all you.
Second.
All in favor of adjourning?
Very good.